Find this and other great figures at BigBadToyStore.com.
Welcome to the video review of Transformers Age of Extinction, Voyager Class Generations Slog. Slog is otherwise known as Sludge in the original Dinobot naming convention. Slog here is modeled in silver, gray, black, and red, with a little bit of blue for the visor. We'll show you the visor in a little bit. Overall, the figure is a very nice sized figure with some interesting accessories. I'm going to go and state right now that the transformation for this guy is a royal pain in the butt. Overall, though, I think the robot mode is by far the better mode. There's a lot of detailing going on here, and he just looks really nice. He comes with 4 different accessories, the 2 of which are these giant lances on the top of his shoulders, or backs, and then these smaller lance things that attach to his shoulders in robot mode. I guess they're guns, or maybe some kind of weird fan-like swords. He can't really hold them because there's not enough clearance with the curve there, and, well, the very limited amount of fist exposure there on his hands. The giant cannon lances do unpeg from the connector on his back, and they are pegged in quite tightly. They're actually really just big pieces of plastic. The black parts fold up to form fronts of swords, and then he can wield them like he has giant, well, swords. Posability of the guy is pretty darn good. Except in the arms, or I should say the hands. There's a little bit of an issue. So plenty of swivels, hinges, lots of movement capability here on the figure. But again, like his good buddy Voyager Grimlock, his arms, or I should say his forearms, if you turn them, then it looks like he's going to be doing curls. You don't have any articulation in the fist, unfortunately, so you can't really pose him holding the swords in a really awesome way, or in a more unique way, like Voyager Drift here. Can't really do that with Slog, unfortunately. The figure has a pretty nice head sculpt, but of all the Dinobots, this is probably my least favorite. Even though he has really nice paint apps going on there in the visor, I mean, they even painted a little bit of black in there to break it up a bit. He unfortunately has no light piping, and the overall head sculpt is just a little bit too spiky for my taste. It doesn't totally fit with the tone of the other Dinobots. It's not bad by any means, it's just not my favorite. In robot mode, the figure does suffer from a few issues, not least of which is the looseness of the hips. The hips aren't terribly loose, but they are loose enough so that when you start moving the figure's torso around, it just has a tendency to fall back. And then there's this backpack. It doesn't lock into place at all in the back, and just kind of sticks and hangs off the figure. In the box, this whole section was really mistransformed, and the section here, which is all rubber, which I'll complain about later, just was in a very weird, twisted angle that I've had to, well, I had to put in a bucket of boiling, not a bucket, but a pot of boiling water in order to get it flexible enough so that I could get it to flatten out like this. The other issue has to do with the legs, and it's not a huge issue, but these red sections on the backs of his legs do peg into the inside of the legs to stay in place, and they have a tendency to pop off very easily, unfortunately. And all these spiky bits that you see, super rough, super soft, vinyl plastic. Or rubber. Not a huge issue, just annoying to me, personally. Slog's transformation is one of the most frustrating transformations in the entire Age of Extinction line. The torso has to be fiddled with just so in order for everything to come into place, and even then, nothing really holds together all that well. It's just a very strange transformation. The upper torso features this giant floppy rubber piece that you have to fit into between the arms in order to even make the figure look decent. The rear legs, or I should say the legs, of the robot mode have a very strange transformation. Parts get in the way constantly, and it's just a darn frustrating transformation. It is an interesting bit of engineering, but as I said, it's just annoying to transform this guy. And when you're done, nothing sticks together. It all just kind of is held together by a wish and a prayer. It's very, very strange, and not at all fun to transform. You really do have to study the directions in order to get things to move right. And the directions are okay, they're not terrible, but as I said, it's Hasbro directions, so they're really hard to read, especially with my old man eyes. The Dinosaur Mode that we end up with is probably one of the worst in the line, and the reason I say that is because nothing really pegs into place, except for the tail and the back section here. Otherwise, you've got this super floppy front of a dinosaur, and he's not exactly proportioned all that well either. Now, it's very possible that I could have him mistransformed. I mean, that is entirely possible. But I don't think so, because, well, the directions really aren't much help, because they start in Dino mode and then go to Robot mode, and they're like 18 steps, and, you know, this is typical Hasbro directions. Yeah, they're kind of hard to follow, even with them being very detailed, quote-unquote. I don't care for this mode at all, really. I'm not a huge fan of it. Now, you guys out there might like this a lot, but having it in hand, he's just a floppy mess of a dino mode. Though I do quite like the dino head. The dino head is actually very well detailed and looks pretty good, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it painted in a different color than just black with silver highlights. It's a very nice dino head that even has an opening mouth. I approve of that. Slog is differently proportioned than Grimlock, but they are roughly the same length, even if the head is much taller on Slog than on Grimlock. But together, they actually look pretty cool. I do like this guy in terms of being a Dinobot. I just don't like his Dino mode all that much. Now, if you were planning on doing anything interesting with the Dino mode, kind of forget it, because like I said, he's kind of a floppity mess, but once you have him stable and not moving, he's fine. Like I said, I could definitely have this mistransformed, but I don't really think so. Now, the one thing I did want to mention is this right here, this chest piece. Rubbery, floppy mess that just sticks out, but if you bend it a little bit and stick it inside of the upper legs, it works much better. Slog can also wield his weapons in this mode as well. Now, I realize that this isn't exactly the way the directions are supposed to, or show him wielding the lances, but I think it looks better like this. Otherwise, you're supposed to spin them back and kind of have them coming out at this angle. I like them a little higher up. That's just a personal preference. Obviously, you don't have to do that. I just kind of like it a little bit higher like that. Or you could just put them straight out to the side, similar to, what was it, Blade Liger from one of the Zoids series. Actually, that works pretty cool. That's pretty cool as well, though it does take up a bit of shelf space. Overall, Slog is not a terrible figure. I just feel like he's a little bit half-baked. And what I mean by that is there was obviously a lot of love and design that went into this, but I don't think they chose the right materials. I don't think that they chose the correct plastics for putting him together. I think there's just too many floppy, rubbery plastics in this figure, and I realize that's because of safety, but I don't think kids are going to poke their eyes out. Or if there's a threat of kids poking their eyes out, why was he designed with so many spiky bits in the first place? I mean, this whole section here is nothing but rubbery, soft plastic. Maybe it was going to be too brittle otherwise, I don't know, but I would have preferred a harder plastic, just so it doesn't feel like it's going to break every time I transform the darn thing. There are a couple of other issues here and there, and there's nothing really I could do about any of them. They are all just a little bit, floppy. He's just a little bit too floppy for my taste as a figure as a whole. Plus, this transformation, I hate to complain about it, it's really freaking complex, especially for a kid. I realize the generation line is geared more towards the fans like myself or the collectors, but I really wonder sometimes what they're thinking, because some of these transformations are a little much. I mean, this is by far the most difficult transformer or a figure to transform in the Generations line so far. There have been other complex figures, but this is, I think, the hardest and most frustrating. He's not a bad figure, though. Slog isn't just a broken figure. I mean, there's some things that I don't like, obviously, and there's some issues that I have with it, but it's not a bad figure. It's just kind of annoying. And I think that might be the worst thing other than being boring. So folks, I hope you enjoyed this video review of Transformers Age of Extinction Voyager class Slog. Like I said, he's not the worst figure, but he's definitely not my favorite. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and as usual, I'll catch you next time.